are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next, the June 9th meeting of the Michigan City Board of Cemetery Trustees. More information can be found for this meeting at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
June 9th, 2022 Board of Cemeteries Trustee meeting. Roxanne, could you please take roll call?
Bob Foreman.
Here.
Virginia Katie.
Here.
Bernadette Denke.
Here.
Marianne Nilzari.
Here.
Steve Janis. Davis Bush.
Here.
Renee Bauer.
Here.
We have 6 present and 1 absent, and we have 4.
Alrighty. First of all, I'd like to thank Virginia for running the meeting last month since I could not be here. I appreciate it very much. Any questions on last month's meeting minutes? Everybody receive them?
Yes.
Any questions? Changes? Hearing none, I move that we approve as presented. I guess. Yep.
They're here. Did you go ahead and...
These are, yeah, I went through,
Send it?
I went to read and present them. Go ahead and have them come on next. You're up.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Larry Zimmer, and I'm here with my husband, Ted Perzanowski. And we just wanted to introduce ourselves. And I'm a residential designer here in the city. We've lived here for 20 years. And I am the president of the Plan Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals here in Michigan City. And we come before you today because we wanted to just briefly suggest to you another type of burial service that you could be offering for the citizens of Michigan City. And I believe that Roxanne had distributed to you documents from the Green Building Council, or the Green Burial Council. And if everybody had a chance to review that and read it, that's basically a good summary of what it is that we were proposing that we offer the citizens of Michigan City. The option of having a green burial section in the cemetery and green burial services that could be arranged through, different funeral homes. And that's it.
And, my name is Ted Perzanowski. I have a counseling practice here in town. I've done my work for over 43 years, and I've been on the board at Doomberg for over 11 years. Now, I know Bunny through our good friend Gretchen. And as Larry was saying, with Michigan City expanding so much and growing with the double track coming in, people interested in the simpler burial is not going to be a huge market. But it won't be any difference in terms of price for people buying a grave. But there are people that would like a simpler approach to funeral, simpler approach to death. And I think it could just be a good marketing thing, even for the cemetery and for Michigan City, to know that there is a part of our burial system that honors this different type of approach. It's not making the entire cemetery a green burial ground. It might be just, designating a small portion of it for that. And so we think that it would be good for the city, it'd be good for the image of the city, especially if we want to show that we're trying to be more and more environmentally sensitive, which a lot of the new buildings should be showing anyway. And in terms of cost, prices would be the same for the cemetery as they would be for any other burial. So that's what we wanted to come and talk to you about today. And we don't know who all of you are, so you could maybe introduce yourself to us.
I'm Paul Foreman, president.
Davis Bush, board member.
Marianne Nelsard, board member.
Thank you.
Renee Bauer, board member.
Bonnie Denke, board member.
Virginia Keating, vice president.
Art Tomczyk, superintendent.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, we all have read what you have presented to us, but the public who will be watching this meeting haven't had that ability. So why don't you just explain for the public exactly what you mean by a green burial?
Sure. Yeah, okay. Okay. And we're not experts on this, we've read, we've always been trying to be ecologically sensitive in consciousness in the way we live, and the house that we've built here in Michigan City, energy efficient and all of that. And so we're not experts, but we have read as much as we can. And so a green burial is one that would not include embalming. It would not include cement box. It would not include anything that cannot be biodegradable. So the vessel that someone would be buried in would be very simple, wicker, and there are different guidelines for that. And that was in probably some of the literature that we sent you. And it just lets sort of a decomposition process take place in a very natural way. And it would be limited to a certain area of the cemetery, not the whole cemetery. It couldn't happen just any place, anywhere, anyhow. It has to be limited. And there are many people that do not want to be embalmed. There are people who don't want to be embalmed and don't want to be cremated. And so it's sort of a blend of both of those wishes. Granted, it'll probably be for a small minority of people, but there is a community out there that would be interested in that. And especially because Swan Lake has such a generous amount of land still available for development, would this be something that could be fit into the spirit of Swan Lake? And then the green burial area usually just becomes a very simple, more park-like setting, which all of Swan Lake is already, a beautiful park-like setting. It's just giving people the option who don't want to be embalmed, who don't want to be cremated, a way to be buried in a respectful, reverent way, in the tradition of what cemeteries have always been.
Thank you for that explanation. That will help the public to understand what we're talking about.
Thank you.
And no doubt, as the city, if you chose to pursue this for the cemetery, the city would need to do some kind of marketing campaign, which is all part of marketing the cemetery anyway, but we could put together, a proposal or an explanation so that the public does understand what the options are. And so.
Thank you.
Any other questions for him?
Yes, you're speaking of interring an unprocessed body into the ground?
Right.
Okay.
Mark, any questions? Okay. Alrighty, what we'll take your suggestions under advisement. We'll talk about it as a board and go from there. I mean, of course, the next section would have to be out in the undeveloped area if we were to go with it at the time, but,
I do have a question. It's my understanding, I could be wrong, that you do not have to be involved to begin with.
That's correct.
That's right.
So that is not what you would consider a selling feature, because so many people nowadays are being either direct cremation or direct burial because they don't have to. Plus there's also religious people that will not be involved.
Sure.
Involvement basically, from my understanding, is you have to be involved if you're going to be viewed and have an open casket at the funeral.
That's right.
I know years ago, a friend of mine, her mother was Jewish, and they didn't embalm her, but they wanted to have a viewing, so they packed her in dry ice. That's the way it used to be done. But I don't think, that might not be one of the biggest selling points, saying, hey, you just don't have to be embalmed.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I understand, trade magazines we get that I read, that there are a lot of different options. Bamboo is one of them. Wood that's very biodegradable.
Yes.
But I don't know what the law is in Indiana entirely about putting the burial in a cement container.
There is not a requirement for it.
I didn't think there was, I thought that was done on each cemetery's rules. I know I've been here almost 40 years, and it's always been a rule here and at Greenwood
Yes.
to have a burial receptacle.
Right.
It might be good if, and this is going to sound terrible, and I don't want you to take it the wrong way, it might be good for Arizona, California, Florida. But I know a lot of people, and I've talked to them about green burials since I've been here, and they all just kind of go, you get that little kid comment, ick. So I don't know if it would fly here or not. And board, that's up to the board, and they'll have to discuss it. But that's all I have to say.
Mark, when my father died, he died in South Bend, and he lived in Niles, Michigan, across the state line, and they said, you can't transport that body across this state line unless it's embalmed.
Well, that's the way it used to be, and I think it still is.
But other than that, I don't think you have to be embalmed.
No, you don't have to be embalmed. If you're going to, let's say you one of the local funeral homes, and you say you have to wait 48 hours by law. Okay, then you're going to a direct burial or direct cremation. You don't have to be involved. That's so.
No.
It's only when you got the viewing visitation, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, Mark, I think you're right, and I said that as part of the opening comments, but there's something wider for people that would be interested in this. They would like a natural decomposition of their bodies, they would not want it to be inhibited by a cement box, and so that's why it's just sort of, for some people, it's more of a natural returning to the earth. And I think you're absolutely right. I don't think there would be a big market for this at all, but to at least consider, is there any market for it? Would there be any interest? Is it something that is given a try, even in a very, very small section of the cemetery? And as ecological sensitivities grow, interest in it may grow, and it may not. You don't know.
I'd like to refer to this document that we sent you on page 4. It says, who wants green burial? And it says, here are some of the things gleaned from a survey that this Green Building Council took. And they said 73% of green cemetery operators said they had experienced growing demand since making it available. 77% agreed that they have been profitable, and 72% indicated they felt their families were highly satisfied with their experience, and all the rest say they were just satisfied. So again, I think it's just a matter of, I think a lot of people don't even know that this alternative exists. And I think with a little bit of public education, maybe even just publishing something, this is actually written for cemetery operators, but I'm sure they have other documents that are geared toward the general public to inform people so that they can know that they have another choice other than just what's available now.
Thank you, gentlemen, for bringing this before us. We hadn't considered something like this, and the board will have to, of course, think about it and look at the options out here. And we don't know what we're going to do right now, but thanks a lot for bringing it to us.
I have one question. Are the funeral homes are aware of this? I mean, have you talked to any of them?
Well, we're sure they know it exists.
Right.
And And we reached out to one, I don't want to use names, but we reached out to one of the funeral homes in town and said we were thinking of coming to, present our ideas to your board, and would they want to come with us? And, just sort of the chain of command at any organization. And I was told someone would get back to me right away, and that was about 6 weeks ago, and no one has, so.
So we wouldn't know if we would get any negative feedback from
Yeah.
the funeral directors.
And again, I don't think that people who would want what we know today is a more traditional approach to burial wouldn't be giving the funeral homes that much business anyway. I mean, they would buy the casket, maybe the vault, and would very likely not have much more than that. So I don't think they would lose business, and yet you might gain business.
Sure, I understand. Thank you.
Are you talking about putting just the casket in the ground? Or are you wrapping the body in a shroud of some kind?
Both.
Both.
Some choose to not be inside of a box at all, or just wrapped in a shroud and placed into the grave.
When, going back to the history of Greenwood, when they started using vaults in the early 1940s, mid-40s, I'm sorry, and because they were always having so much trouble with the caskets as they slowly deteriorate, the ground around them would cave in. And that increased the workload for the cemetery at the time. If you have, and I know this for a fact, back in 1986, we had some tremendous rainstorms in October, and sections that just used caskets had all caved in because there was so much rain that October. It was involved. So I just me, not the board, me personally, it seems to me like it would be kind of out of whack as far as employee trying to do their job.
And Mark, I think that's something we need to discuss.
Okay, sorry.
We don't need to involve these gentlemen in
Well,
that.
from what I've read online is that when they do place a body in a grave that's not in a box, or is in a box that they know will decompose and eventually collapse, is that they mound the ground slightly over it, which compensates so that as the box decomposes and compresses, the mounded ground on top goes down with it, so that you don't get collapse, as you say.
Okay.
And Mark, that's also why, for this idea, cemeteries, some cemeteries have just made the whole thing, but those who have gone part hybrid, they call it, it's a very limited area, and usually they don't even use then markers in terms of headstones and things. There might be some more gentle kind of marking, so that the whole thing just becomes very natural and park-like without a lot of maintenance required.
Well, there's a lot of things that need to be discussed, and I think that it's going to take us a little bit of time before we reach any decisions. So.
I'd also like to suggest that there's probably like 300 hybrid cemeteries in the country right now. I think there's probably a wealth of people out there. You could talk to other superintendents and other cemeteries. I'm sure they've all worked out the kinks at this point, if there's that many that exist and have that many years of experience under their belt. So I doubt that there's any problem that you can think of that they haven't already worked out a solution for.
And I think there's some down in the Marion County area, the hybrid, and then also down near Evansville, so, in our state.
Okay.
Evansville, and where else did you say?
I think in Marion County.
Marion County.
Anything else?
Oh.
Yeah, I found this Green Building Council's website to be really informative, and there's all kinds of links to other sources of information and experts in this.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for stopping by.
And the only other thing, even with the green burial, you don't get an extra discount on the luncheon, so.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Bye now.
Do you need a motion to bring forward the green barrel at the next meeting?
No, that's gonna be a while.
That's gonna be a while.
Well, we'll probably have to assign it to a committee.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I was under the impression that the cemetery board does not micromanage how they bury people and stuff. That's up to funeral directors, whether you're embalmed or not, or you're in a casket or you're not. We don't sell any of that stuff. And Mark doesn't recommend things to people. That's up to the funeral directors.
Well, a lot of that stuff is up to the state though, as far as embalming and stuff. You don't have to do it. I don't know. I'm not sure about it.
Alrighty. Let's go over the Horizon Bank financial report.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? I know the mask sometimes.
You're fine.
Okay, so I have the report for May. And starting on page 1 at the top with the summary, the permanent maintenance Greenwood account was up 0.12% for the month and 0.53% year-to-date. The next account is the permanent maintenance Swan Lake account, which also was up 0.12% for the month and 0.44% year-to-date. And the extension fund account, it was up 0.11% for the month and up 0.46 year-to-date. And the merchandise and commissions fund account was flat for the month and flat at 0% year-to-date. Turning to page 2 with the account details and the permanent maintenance account, the Greenwood account, the money market is currently yielding, or at the end of May, it was yielding 0.14%, which is up from last month's and last year's yield of 0.02%. The mutual fund's overall yield is at 1.1%, which is up from last month's yield of 1.04%. And the overall yield in the account is at 1.59%, which is up from last month's yield of 1.55%. Turning to page 3, the permanent maintenance Swan Lake account, the mutual fund's overall yield was at 1.1%, which is up from last month's yield of 1.01%, and the overall yield in the account was at 1.59%, which is up from last month's yield of 1.32%. And on page 4, in the next account, the extension fund, the mutual fund's overall yield was at 1.07%, which is up from last month's yield of 1%. And the overall yield in the account was at 1.47%, which is up from last month's yield of 1.41%. On page 5, in the last account, the merchandise fund, the mutual fund's overall yield was at 1.07%, which is up from last month's yield of 1.01%. The overall yield in the account was 0.53%, which was down from last month's yield of 0.54%. Any questions on the financials? Okay.
Nope.
And I'll also give a brief economic update. So talks of recession come up with some analysts from time to time. The current prediction is a 40% chance of U.S. recession, but not until 2023 or 2024. There's a 50% chance of a soft-ish landing and a 10% upside surprise. Downside risks are inflation. It's remained high for so long, it's becoming entrenched. Global supply shocks are still in play. China's had another shutdown from COVID. The feds need to tighten further and faster now. demand must fall and corporate profits should come under pressure. The narrow path to the softish landing, there's a cushion from the large number of job openings and the low unemployment rate that continues. Goods could cheapen with global bottlenecks clearing, quantitative tightening to balance the federal rate hikes, and the FMLC has wiggle room around their 2% inflation target. They can declare a victory, for example, at 2.5%. We expect an additional 50 basis point rate hike at the next Fed meeting next week, and more to come barring any surprises as the Fed continues to try to get inflation under control. The risks to growth include oil prices, the war in Ukraine, and COVID-19. There's been a sharp rise in interest rates, which has driven the bond market prices down, but the yields have adjusted higher. The interest rates continue to rise with the 10-year U.S. Treasury yield up to 3.03%, and of course they're affecting the fixed income values. The Bloomberg U.S. Aggregate Bond Index was up to 0.5% as of the end of May, but still down almost 10% year to date. The bright spot that we continue to see is yields on CDs and other fixed income. The one-year CD is slightly above 2%. 2-year CDs are approaching 3%, and 3-year CDs continue in the 3% range, which of course are up significantly since the beginning of the year. So in summary, we'll continue to watch closely the inflation numbers and the Fed's actions and their commentary next week and the next several meetings.
Any other questions for Sarah?
No.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Our financial report, both cemeteries were down last month. The year-to-date, Swan Lake's ahead a little bit. Greenwood is down almost 30 grand. So we keep plugging away. So your motion to accept the financial reports.
So moved.
Second. So moved and motion approved. Mark, the bills.
Okay, Barthel Enterprises. We had run out of keys for the mausoleum, and when we sell a niche here, a niche of Greenwood, or inside mausoleum here, we also issue a key to the families, and we were out of keys, so we had I believe it was 100 keys made from Barthel Enterprises. Board of Cemetery Trustees, $27.40 petty cash. That was for some light bulbs for the entrance at Greenwood from Tri-State Electric. Petty cash also Brandt's Swan Food, $22.55. Coalliance Gasoline, that used to be Knoll Brothers, they sold out. We now get our gas and diesel from Coalliance, $3,044.23. Cabling Ace Hardware, small tools or small parts to repair water line in some of the vehicles, $107.54. Kemp's Office Supply, ribbons for the typewriters, $23.28. Matthews, $4,671.20. Michigan City Auto, oil and filters for some of the vehicles at Greenwood, $37.80. Water and sewage, $35.42. NIPSCO, $635.16. Republic Waste, $293.93. Is that? Go on. And flowers, Mark A. Tomczyk, $178.85 because we buy the flowers in Illinois, we have to bring them over. Horizon Bank, permanent maintenance. Receipts, $1,110.35, and that's all Swan Lake. Extension fund receipts, $2,385.75. Merchandise receipts, $6,077.33 for a total of $9,573.43. Excuse me one second, was Republic 2 months?
Republic was almost 3 months.
It was almost 3 months to have that. Usually it's about $85 or so. That's the reading of the bills.
Have a motion to pay the bills?
I'll make a motion, we pay the bills.
Seconded.
Motion carried. Here first and second, motion carried. Pay the bills.
We got to vote.
Oh, yes, I do, I guess. So I just missed.
Call
All
for the
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. See, I missed a month or two and I'm just out of it. Superintendent's report.
Okay, last month the board made no Saturday funerals, so we sent letters to all the local funeral homes concerning the Saturday no funeral policy. We received no comments or calls from any funeral homes at the present time. I've talked to a couple of them and nothing has been said. Actually, one was glad we did it. Okay, started a week or so ago, started working on the 2023 cemetery budget. Last week must be completed and turned into the controller's office by Friday, June 17th. The mayor and city controller will meet with department heads after the 17th and before having to go before the city council. This is a multitude on this one. Memorial Day, that's the header. Greenwood Cemetery was cut by the riding mower 7 times complete. Excuse me, plus all the fence line was also cut and trimmed. The cemetery was completely string trimmed 1 time a week before Memorial Day. The GER monument, where the service is held, Section S, which is part of the GER monument area, Section R, Q, and T, plus the parade route, were all given an extra trimming so everything looked good for the parade. The Post 37 donated flags for all the circles, all 4x6 flags, and they're all new for the circles up at Greenwood. A week before that, we had 150 geraniums, and a small assortment of flowers were planted from the flower fund. That flower fund was set up almost 100 years ago. Families would pay so much into the fund for geraniums forever. They stopped taking any more orders about 30 plus years ago because it was becoming so time consuming for the employees and the amount of employees shrinking. It takes anywhere from 2 to 3 days, depending on the individual, to plant those flowers. They're planted throughout the whole 55 acres of the cemetery. That was, like I say, it was set up forever ago. We also plant flowers at the Lutz Vault and Carter Manny's area. He set up something years ago, so they get flowers on their big giant urn, and the Lutz Vault has 2 urns in front of the mausoleum, and there's flowers that are planted in there also. The flowers for the cemetery were planted 2 weeks prior to Memorial Day. We planted 15 flats of flowers. Half at Greenwood, half here at Swan Lake. Over the period of years, we have slowly cut down some of the flower plantings, one, cost and time consuming. I went to the Memorial Day service along with Mrs. DeRolf. And we listened to the mayor about the new Veterans Memorial. I have asked about the size, dimensions, and have not received anything from his office as of yet. He has asked where we can put it. I've been asked that by several people. Couple of thoughts. One, the veteran, this is going to be, if I understood when he was speaking that day, that it was going to be a veterans, for all veterans, like encompassing all veterans from whenever. Now, we do have a circle up at Greenwood that is called the Veterans of All Wars. It takes World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and so on. When that was originally planned years ago, that was going to have a fountain in the center of it, right in the middle of the circle, and some bushes and other stuff planted around it. Don't know why, never did. All they have is patio blocks made into a circle, and it is starting to deteriorate, fall apart. So that would be a good recommendation, maybe to put it in that circle once we get a final dimensions and see if it will fit in that area. If anybody, has everybody seen what it looks like?
Yeah, I saw a picture.
It's it's got the rifle with the helmet on top with a pair of boots at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Well, the first time I saw that, when I was in Southeast Asia, somebody had written on a picture that said Kilroy was here. Never mind. Now here, I'm serious about this one. I would like to thank all the cemetery employees for an extra effort and a job well done for Memorial Day. They went above and beyond to get the cemetery done. It takes 4 weeks, 4 days a week to string trim the cemetery, all 55 acres, 80,000 stones plus. They only do it 4 days a week because on Fridays of every week, they take and cut the office, all the circles, Babyland 10A, the mausoleum, and the Lutz Vault. I just want to say, I cannot say it enough, that the employees this year have done it. They've done it every year since I've been here, but this year they went up and above and did an excellent job. There's no way we can get that cemetery with the amount of people that we have trimmed every week or every 2 weeks. It takes 4 weeks from front to back. Once we go through it the first time, the grass is not growing as much, and they're halfway through it again right now. So maybe by the end of next week or halfway through the next week, the whole place will be trimmed again. But when they get up front, the grass in the back will be a little bit longer. But they did an excellent job, and I just want to thank them for all the extra effort. We have 2 gentlemen, one runs a string trimmer, and one does a push mower. That's what they do. 7.5, 8 hours a day. If anybody has used a string trimmer, I use mine at my house in 10 minutes and my hands are numb. So that gentleman has he's done an excellent job. He's been here about 15 years, seasonal. And the other gentleman's been here about 8 years now. So they keep coming back. They're excellent workers. So I just wanted to thank them on camera here. That's pretty much where I'm at right now, other than
Okay, we're going to deal with the quotes on the trees, and I think Mark is going to tell us that Olivia's is not going to be under consideration, nor is Noel Brothers. Is that correct, Mark?
Well, I knew about Olivia's. Noel's, yeah, has just come up.
Yeah, so we're left with A1 Loggins, their proposal $12,400.
Yes.
And who else?
We have A1. And then there is John's Tree Service for $13,675. And I don't want to get this guy's name wrong. Green Leaves Tree Service for a total of $16,162.50.
How much was John's?
John's was,
13,675,
thank you,
And A1 was 12.
A1 was
12,000 was it?
12,400.
Okay, is there any difference between them as far as grinding or anything like that?
No, they all had to meet the same criteria.
Okay.
Grind out the stumps, clean up everything.
Okay, availability, did you ask them when they would be available?
It's been a month or so ago now, so now I don't know when they would be able to do it. I'd have to call them again once we decide what we're gonna do, or you're gonna do.
Have you worked with the ones we're considering before?
We've got John.
I worked with everyone that put
A bid in?
no, not a bid, a quote, a estimate. So it's just a question of cost. We've had John several times. They've been very good. We've used A1. They're good. It's just a question of if you want to go by cost for the estimate, or that's up to the board.
One other thing, have you received certificates of insurance from all of them?
Everyone except for A1 Loggins.
Okay. All right, and whoever we decide on, you'll take that certificate to city attorney and have her look it over?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so what we will do is we'll make our motion contingent upon the approval of the certificate of insurance, so, just so we don't forget that. Now, have you had any experience, negative experience with any of these? Who's been best service to us?
I've not had any seriously negative from any of them. We had a tree come down a few years ago in the wintertime. I called John's Tree Service. They were right here, took care of it within a day. I've had A1s do the same thing. I've only dealt with the Green Leaves, I believe, one time, but A1s and John's have been very good, very quick to respond.
Okay.
I've not had a bad,
So then I'm sorry to interrupt you, so then the decision will be based solely on how much it costs, is that right?
pretty much.
That, and then how fast they can get to it.
Well,
Yeah, the availability, I know.
that's,
I'm
and
getting
the
out there.
insurance, of
Yeah.
course.
And the
Yeah.
insurance.
Okay,
So,
well, that makes it difficult for us to
vote on it.
vote on it now.
Right.
And that might require a special meeting if we can't just do anything today, so.
Should I just take the insurances from the three of them down and let her look at all of them?
Yeah,
Yeah, I would get the ball rolling on that.
And make sure all three,
covered, that
okay.
Covers our, what we need liability wise. And then,
let me go back to the necessity of having them out immediately or as quickly as possible. I don't think that should factor in, okay? I think we should simply get the best price and the one that has the correct amounts of insurance and make the decision there.
cause I've heard some of them are out 6 months already. Yeah, so,
Well, we can always
right,
revisit it if they're gonna be too long.
That's the other thing I was gonna bring up.
but,
Then I suggest we just vote on this contingent, and we will authorize Mark, if the insurance is in order, that he can go ahead and contract. That's the way I would do it.
okay. So, Mark, you go ahead and get the certificate of insurance from all three of them. And then, once it's been approved that everything all meet the standards for the city, I will go with the lowest bid at the time, I would say. And, I mean, as long as everything falls in place.
Fall in place is a good line. I've seen the trees.
Yeah.
They may come down by themselves. So I went out and picked one branch up myself. Not the whole tree, just little bits.
Any other questions?
Do you want to make a motion and a vote?
Yep, make a motion that once he gets all the certificates, that he can make the decision of who to go with, on having the final say-so on, who takes it down.
If we don't want to have a special meeting, what we can do is we can empower Mark to be able to make that decision.
Right.
So,
That's what I wanted to.
that would be good. Yeah, then we won't.
Then we don't have to
Hold things
hold
up
things
any
up
longer.
once he gets the okay from the city.
Okay. All right, I'll second that motion.
All in favor? All in favor, say.
Why don't we clarify the motion? We're requiring that the city attorney look at the certificates of insurance and indicate to us whether they're all in order or if there is somebody who is not. So this is contingent on that happening, and we are authorizing Mark, once that has been taken care of, to go ahead and select the person of these three. If one may be disqualified, we don't know. But if they're all qualified, then he is authorized to go with the one whose bid is, or quote is the lowest. So that's what we're voting on now. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. John here.
I need to tell everybody that I spoke with the mayor, and he was highly complimentary of this guy right here. He said he did an excellent job for Memorial Day, so we should all
Well, it was,
applaud
thank you, but it
him.
was the employees, that's why I stressed the employees.
Yeah, this cemetery was beautiful.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
yes, it was.
Well, it was still beautiful last Sunday when we were there.
Yeah,
And we're still down one employee because we still have a gentleman off on medical leave. So we did it one person short. One last thing before you go on there. I called our person about the lawnmowers, and now they're out to the end of July, possibly, could be longer. So we're
The new ones?
the new ones.
Okay.
The new mowers, yeah.
okay.
We'll get them just in time for snow.
Can you plow snow with them?
Then we can put a board on the front of it.
Had something passed down here on 519. One of the local clubs stopped in the Greenwood office while putting the flags out and for Memorial Day to say the cemetery looked amazing, and also had a family member stop in to praise the job of the cemetery workers for the installation of the veteran markers, and say the cemetery looked beautiful. So
Very
there's
good.
no names on it, but I mean, yeah.
That's good to
It's just
hear.
nice to hear that every once in a while.
Yeah, very good to hear.
Okay. Any new business? I mean, no quote yet on the,
No,
on the
I'll be honest, since last month, I have not had time
Okay.
or
No, just-
an effort to do anything with that. I will work on that.
that, and, don't forget about the sidewalk in front of the cemetery in the
Yeah,
office.
I was told about that, but some old lady,
It's raised up an inch and a half.
Do you want me to replace it, or do you want me to call a cement leveling company?
Nope, replace it, because
Okay.
I don't think you're gonna run into roots underneath there which have popped it up. So I think you're just gonna have to remove it.
Take both sides?
Both sides. And actually, if the guys are available, we could remove it, put plywood down for the time being as a walking place up there, then, I mean,
I had it looked at last year, and it was over $5,000. Just for that little bit.
no. But anyway, I mean, at least get a quote.
We'll
and go
get
from
going
there.
on it because everybody's so far out.
Yeah, oh, yeah. So, any other new business? If not, next meeting will be held July 14th, 3:30 at Swan Lake here. Meeting is adjourned.